I think Claudia might still be muted.
Where are you, Claudia? Unmute yourself. There we go.
I was having trouble unmuting myself, sorry. The unmuted Claudia is here, welcome. I read something this week that was inspiring to me, particularly because of all the difficulties that we've been experiencing or experiencing vicariously at least. I've had a lot of thinking to do about what's important and what my path really is and what I can do. So I'd like to read this to you from A Gentle Art of Blessing is the name of the book. What is appealing about the spiritual path, as the American spiritual teacher Ram Dass has stressed, is that everything is grist for the mill. Absolutely everything. A traffic jam, an illness, a theft, a noisy neighbor, a flat tire, which I had one this week, becomes an opportunity to learn, discover, progress, repent, rejoice, unveil, awaken, love more, and wonder. The smallest detail of life, every single encounter, be it with saint or a snail, can sparkle with tender interest and become aglow with enchantment. That is the real excitement of the spiritual path. It's beauty, depth, joy, and yes, it's fun. Every single event in life can become an opportunity for a silent, yes, thank you.
Be still, in quiet and in peace. We know the joy and wonder of release. In the place within, all troubles disappear. In this secret place, there is no doubt or fear. Be still and know that faith has made us whole. Renewed are we in spirit and in soul. The light of truth within shines forth that we may see. Perfect peace is ours eternally.
And with profound gratitude, I welcome everyone here. I know that each of us has come to share our own personal spiritual journey with all the rest of us, that we give together to the group to make the possibility of peace stronger at every point. I know that each person has their own individual journey, and each will be fed by the message and the music as is needed. I appreciate all the musicians and the speakers who have contributed to keeping this, and those who support the church in other ways, to keeping this alive during a long pandemic. And so it is, and so it will be, that each person receives exactly what they need. Amen. Jackson.
Be still and know that faith has made us whole. Renewed are we in spirit and in soul. The light of truth within shines forth that we may see. Perfect peace is ours eternally.
And now we make way for this, for the words of Angelica Taggart, who will again feed our souls with what is needed.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia and Jackson, for the meditation. So this morning, the title is Grounded Beyond the Beginning. And I really had to think about this because of the events of this week. And as I said in my Friday message, and have told some people in classes, etc., in groups, that was really shocking. And I'm sure all of us felt that same way. You know, we were just finishing the practitioner class, and I was about to do the treatment for the ending, and Scott said, wait just a minute, I got a text from my son about the Capitol being breached. And so we did the treatment and left the meeting, and I went over and turned on the TV, and I could feel everything that I felt for 9/11. You know, there was some disbelief, there was anger, there was fear, there was, you know, just this whole mixture of emotions were going through me. And part of my spiritual training is that, as Dr. Holmes says somewhere in the textbook, he says, turn entirely away from the condition. And I wanted to do that. I really wanted to do that. And yet I also wanted to know what was happening. I wanted to, I had to keep watching and listening and feeling my feelings. And I think that that's something that all of us have to do, is really feel our feelings. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. The idea of our Capitol being breached and the violence that was happening, you know, the windows being broken, things being destroyed, people dying, you know, that really hurts our hearts. And once again, it seems to me it adds a little of that PTSD feeling to us. And so this morning, I'm hoping that by our going back to our roots, back to the beginning, we will get to feel a little bit more grounded, because yes, things are happening out here, but let me remind you of that story I've told many times about Johnny Carson having the man on that spun the plates, and watching this portion of the show. You know, the man is there and he's got like these plates on poles, and he's holding them in his mouth and his hands and everything, and they're just spinning, spinning, spinning. He's not dropping any of them. And then afterwards, he invites Johnny to help him or to try it. And so Johnny, of course, almost immediately spins a plate right off the little pole, and it drops and breaks. And he asked the man when they're sitting together, how do you do that? How do you keep those plates spinning like that? How do you stay balanced? And the man said, I do not focus on the wobble. I only focus on the center. And when I am entranced by the television and, looking at Facebook and checking everything to see what's the newest, what's the message, what's going on in the world with this event, etc., I'm focusing on the wobble. I'm not focusing on the center. So today we're going to look at some basic science of mind principles. Now, the very first thing is our Declaration of Principles, or the science, it's now called What We Believe, and that contains the foundational principles of our teaching. Ernest Holmes says, God is incarnated in all persons and individualized through all creation without loss to itself. And so I'm going to read us these. You can find these in any Science of Mind magazine. This is this month's, and this is it. So just close your eyes for a minute and listen. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. We believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick and the control of conditions through the power of this mind. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. Now you might think, if this is what we teach and this is what we believe, then how do we manage to create episodes that we saw, like we saw on Wednesday? In speaking to somebody the other day, they said, well, God isn't there. And yet we believe that God is absolutely everywhere, that God is the energy, the divine energy that's permeating this universe, that created the universe, that becomes the plants and the animals and the atoms and, us, everything. So God was there. We also believe, however, that this powerful presence works through our consciousness. So we have to look at what is the collective consciousness that created that. And I wrote in my Friday message that the one thing that came out for me when I was listening to interviews was that this man who had been outside of it, who hadn't participated in it, but he had gone there to be part of this rally, he said, "We just want to be heard." And I thought about that. Each one of us has our own belief system. We take what we learn, we take what we begin to learn as children, we bring that with us through our school years, through relationships, through jobs, through everything. We take what we like out of what we're learning. We take what resonates with us and we move forward in our lives, and that energy then attracts to us what we experience in the outer. So if I have a wobble in my collective consciousness, if I see a wobble in the collective consciousness, what is mine to do? Well, mine, I believe, is to look at my own belief systems and see, where am I, for instance, not hearing? Where am I expecting people to believe the way I believe? Where am I getting angry or resentful because somebody is acting or believing in a way that is not akin to what I believe? And so I have to heal that in myself, because I have to realize that all of this, it's all one. It's absolutely all one. As Dr. Holmes says, God is incarnated in all persons and individualized through all creation without a loss to itself. One of the things I want to point out, though, is that it's not just me, it's we. And we're moving into an energy field right now, which is going to point that out more and more. And as we move into this energy field, and I'm going to use some astrology here, as we're moving into Aquarius, this the very beginning, so to speak, of the age of Aquarius, as we're moving into Aquarius, which to me is the sign that believes in the we more than the me. As we move into this place, we're going to be doing what the Dalai Lama declared years ago, which is when he said, "My religion is kindness." So I believe we're moving into a place that is more compassionate, that is more loving, that is more kind, all the things that we want. And one of the things I've noticed about my own life, and you might have noticed this about yours as well, is that when you're going through something, just before you have the big revelation that turns it around, it gets worse. So to me, this is like the might is right versus the compassion and the we consciousness. So the might is right is fighting for its life. And it's going through its death throes. And we're moving through that into something more magnificent. And I want us to be in that something more magnificent, because we believe what we believe. We have the opportunity of being on the forefront of it. And I believe that we already are. And I'm going to share the, whoops, where did my, somehow I went out of that. I'm going to share the next point I'm thinking of. So the first point was really looking at what we believe. The second point, and we have to do that as an organization, we have to do that as the collective consciousness, we have to do that individually. Now, in the second point here, I want to talk to you about our global vision, the Centers for Spiritual Living global vision. So one of the things that came up for me is that we see a world where all life is seen as expression of the divine. Yet we observe social inequities, racial injustice, and disenfranchisement of people all throughout our world. So deeply held beliefs of race superiority, preference, and privilege are not consistent with our spiritual and universal principles. Our evolutionary vision for humanity is in a world where people live in alignment with spiritual truth. And maybe they are living in alignment with their spiritual truth. They might be in a different spiritual arena than we are. But listen to this global vision. We have this in short form on a big banner in our sanctuary, but I'm going to read you the whole thing. And I know I'm not really into reading too much during my talk, but I think these are important. Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision. We envision all people, all beings, and all life as expressions of God. We see a world in which every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. Everybody breathe. We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thought. A world where every person discovers his or her own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a world that works for everyone. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. We envision a world where each person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging, a world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement and justice. We envision a world where resources are valued, cared for, and grown, and where there is generous and continuous sharing of these resources. We envision a worldwide culture in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or deaths, is the norm. We envision a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation. I love this global vision. I think that we're well on our way to experiencing this as a reality in our worlds. Many of us are experiencing it as a reality in our personal worlds, but I think we're really moving forward into a place where this is going to be just part of the collective consciousness. So Dr. Holmes says, the sacred books of all peoples declare that God is one, a unity from which nothing can be excluded and to which nothing can be added. God is one. I mean, I really think that if we really paid attention to those first two steps of treatment, unification, recognition, and unification, that would be all we really need to do to live this global vision. And what are those steps? In the recognition, you're recognizing that absolutely everything is divine. There is nothing that is not divine. So as Emma Curtis Hopkins says, when I was sitting there, or standing there actually, because I couldn't sit down, I was so freaked. When I was watching that thing on TV, I could have done like Emma Curtis Hopkins wrote about years and years ago, where she would point at it and say, this too is God, this too is good, this too is for me, or this too is for us. And maybe that experience was for us. Just like after 9/11, when we didn't think anything could happen on our soil, where we felt like we were above it all, and yet it did. And this particular experience for me personally was worse because it wasn't somebody from some other country. It was our citizens fighting our citizens. You know, it was Americans against Americans. And that's not a good reality to live in. So I want to say that something really good is going to come out of this experience. I don't know what it is yet, but something really good is going to come out of it. And I'm going to declare that and know that that's so. So my third idea is that being really spiritually grounded in the consciousness of oneness means we've embodied the reality of oneness, and it continually manifests through us as truth and action and form. And my feeling is this requires constant courting and communing with the divine. Constantly. So those of you in classes know that I'm constantly asking you, well, how's your meditation going? How are your spiritual mind treatments going? And some people say, well, you know, I do it occasionally. I do it when I need it. That's what I used to say. I do it. Well, when I need to do it, I do it. And yet now I'm realizing that to be really spiritually grounded, I need to live it, absolutely live it. To live this idea that all there is the divine, and to remember that I'm that. It's not God as me or God in me, it's God as me. Whatever that means to me. But this requires a constant courting and communing with the divine. Dr. Holmes says, the prophets of every age have declared the unity of God and man, but they have been among those who entered in. Dare we deny the reality of their experience, the truth of their message? You know, for a while I was reading about people that were considered really spiritual and had done good works in all kinds of religions, you know, saints and sages of all forms. And I remember I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I remember being in Los Angeles, I think it was in the 70s, and seeing this line of people that was going around the block. And it was, I can't remember what theater it was in Los Angeles, but some really big theater. And these people with crutches and wheelchairs and all kinds of things were lined up around the block. And I asked somebody, well, what is this all about? And they said, oh, Catherine Coleman is speaking. I thought, Catherine Coleman, who's that? Well, I found out real quickly after that she was considered a faith healer, a really active faith healer, and one that got good results all the time. And I thought, there's someone from the Christian tradition that really knows who she is. There's somebody who believes that, as she would say, the power of Jesus Christ was working through her. And she believed it so much that it did work through her. I mean, people would leave their crutches and their wheelchairs behind. There was always many healings at her events. So dare I deny the reality of her experience? Or should I start remembering she did it, I can do it? You and I have the ability to change the world right now. We have the ability to begin to think of our country not as something that is having a problem, but something that is moving, going through the birth pangs, perhaps, of a whole new reality. We have the power within us. As Holmes says, there's a power within us that is greater than we are, and we can use it. It's not that we can use it, we are using it all the time. We're using it no matter how we're thinking. And so I want to celebrate that in us today. And I want to read you when I was doing my treasure map yesterday, going through all the pictures I've saved, I found a picture that is accompanied by a quote by Jean Houston. And I read this and I went, oh my God, this is so true. Here it is. It is no longer possible for us to live as pale and diminished versions of ourselves. For a new world and a new millennium, we need a new mind with expanded senses and a deepened spirit. It is no longer possible for us to live as pale and diminished versions of ourselves. It's time for us to really begin to remember who we are. For a new world and a new millennium, we need a new mind with expanded senses and a deepened spirit. I love our teaching. Before I got into religious science, I was in all kinds of stuff. I tried just about every religion I could find. And this is the only one that has kept my interest for all these years. When I think about it, I'm going to have been a minister for 35 years this year. I was into the teaching before that. And I've realized that for me, it's important to practice what I preach. And classes, groups, book studies, all of this that we offer through the center, they are constantly reminding us of who we are, the truth of who we are, and this ability to constantly court and commune with the divine. So let's say this affirmation together and move into spiritual mind treatment. As I move forth into this new year, I bring with me all the gifts that Spirit has given to me in my daily life. I listen to the still, small voice of Spirit, guiding me on my path each and every moment. Still, small voice. That voice isn't so still and small any longer. That voice is beginning to boom in our ears, reminding us of the truth of all life, that all life is God's life, including the one that we're living right now. So I declare, knowing the power of my word, that there is a wave of peace going across our country, that anything that we might be afraid of that's being planned for any future dates, etc., all of that is now a no thing, because there is balance, there is peace, there is compassion, there is kindness in our country. We have come back to ourselves. We are a country whose vision has always been liberty and justice for all. And so I see that idea of liberty includes our being willing to listen, our being willing to see, our being willing to feel the truth that absolutely all of it is divine. There is nothing that is not God. So I declare that I do my part, that this week I pay attention to where I'm letting myself get anxious, fearful. I remember that fear turns to attack in 60 seconds in the animal world. And we're still animals. So I choose right now to step out of fear and into the light. I know who I am, and I speak this word in the first person for all of us. I am a light worker. I am ready and willing to see the light of God in absolutely everything, the light of love in absolutely everything, that unconditional love. I am willing to stand in the light of truth, knowing that every action has an effect. And I choose my actions to be ones that are kind, that are compassionate. I choose to know the truth, not only for myself, but for all beings. And I stand in the light, seeing peace everywhere, seeing people knowing that they are heard, that they are seen, that they are valuable. And how grateful I am that I get to do this. How grateful for this teaching I am. How grateful I am to constantly remember that all there is the divine. And that energy, that divine energy, is moving through every cell and atom of my body and every cell and atom of everything. And so I see that this energy is love, absolute love. And I'm so grateful for this. And so I declare that something about this morning has reminded me of the truth of my being. And that as I go out into my week, I see the truth everywhere. And it is good, very good. So I release these words into divine law, knowing that they are so. And so it is.